we take seriously our role as stewards of taxpayer dollars. And so, what I feel that priority-based budgeting gives us is an opportunity in several ways for the community, as well as our own team, as well as our elected officials, to pause and then indicate what are the services that are most important to our community. That's what priority-based budgeting does for us. So we go through very intentional processes to make sure we understand and we are listening to what our community is telling us as far as the services that are most important. And then through the priority-based budgeting process, we align our resources to those services according to their level of importance. Recently, about a year ago, we went through that process again. We made the elected officials in the community made some modifications to our community results. But you can find on our website, and when we talk about the budget, everything we do aligns to those community results. And we show how they break down from a resource allocation point, personnel, as well as funding, in which areas that we spend most of our dollars. And again, every time we go through this exercise, it's enlightening to our entire team, because everybody gets involved at the City of Battle Creek to help us score our programs, projects, and services against our community results and come up with our funding quartiles. It doesn't mean that if a service is in a lower quartile, number 4, that it's any worse than a number 1. However, a healthy budget, as according to the priority-based budgeting process, is that the majority of your funds are spent in quartile 1 and 2, and that certainly has been demonstrated. You can see that on our website. It was part of our budget workshop presentation, and we're pretty proud to lift that up, because not every community can say we at least are regularly checking in with our community about what we should be spending their tax dollars on. It's one of the things I really do appreciate about the PBB process. Switching from priority-based budgeting to the American Rescue Plan Act, so the city was very fortunate to receive dollars directly as an entitlement community. So in 2020, we received a $30.5 million ARPA allocation. And since that time, the City Commission, the community, and staff have gone through a very intentional process about how best to utilize those funds. Always keeping in mind that these are one-time funds. We don't want to create anything we can't sustain beyond the ARPA dollars. We are required to encumber those ARPA dollars or commit them to something by December 31st of 24, and we must spend them all by December 31st of 2026. That's a good prod for us to know these are one time. So we wanted to act quickly, but not too quickly, to understand what our elected officials were thinking and how best we could deploy these funds in the community, knowing that they could be used internally by the city or externally. So what the City of Battle Creek did is, right off the top, we knew that we could take an appropriation for lost revenue that COVID had created, and that was $10 million. The city then shared projects with the elected officials, internal city projects that were eligible for ARPA funds. And then we prioritized those in a variety of ways, and those dollars have been appropriated to city projects as well. And then lastly, they chose a third bucket in which to provide in the community. So a little less than $8 million of our $30.5 million was re-granted to community organizations that were working diligently to help positively impact the negative impacts of the global pandemic. So those community projects are in process. We update the commissioners on a regular basis, but you can also see that on the city's website through a dashboard, as well as very specific information on the narratives of what each one of those community projects is doing. You will also see where city projects are at as far as what they have and have not spent, what have started, what's not started, and then any other support that the dollars were used for. Bringing it back around to the fiscal year 24 budget proposal, you will see, and as we shared with the commissioners, we are proposing to use some of that lost revenue money to balance our budget for fiscal year 24. We think it's a modest amount because we've been able to see a higher fund balance than we have in the past. We also think it's fiscally possible and sustainable to be able to propose that at this particular time.
We greatly value input from the community on the budget, and whether that's in person, whether that's an email, or doing stuff like this, we definitely want as much public engagement as possible in the budget. And so we definitely value our residents' input in that process.